Signing up. Okay. We're live.
All set?
Yep.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It's November 14th, 2022, 6 p.m. at the Lincolnville Town Office. First item on the agenda, the Citizens Forum. For any non-agenda items, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to come to the podium and identify yourself and talk about a non-agenda item, now is the time. Not seeing a herd of people raising their hands or anything, we'll move on to the administrator's report.
I think I'd like to extend congratulations to the 71% of registered voters that showed up on election day or voted prior to election day via absentee ballot, and extend a real thanks to the volunteer election clerks that showed up to run or assist running the election and counting ballots and taking things apart and putting them away. Impossible to do without the assistance of those folks. But for an off year, quote unquote off year election, 71% is a very good turnout.
That is a good turnout.
1,517 votes cast, I believe.
Wouldn't that be great if that happened at town meeting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well,
Maybe not, I don't know.
no, everybody votes every time, be wonderful. Little on the good news front, we did receive a $3,000 grant for the security system, well, the camera system that we're installing at the fire station, so that'll be helpful. And we also have, just as of, I don't know, 8 o'clock on Thursday night, because it was due at 11:59 Thursday night, applied for a grant with the state of Maine for the stream crossing, that hopefully for the culvert on Townhouse Road that we'll be replacing in the hopefully in the coming year. We just received our Army Corps of Engineer permit for that project too, which is a big milestone, because last time that was lingering when we did the one on Slap City, but we got it. So
That's great.
yep. Otherwise than that, elections dominated the last month of our work here in the town office. A lot of people voted absentee, over 500 people, and that needs a lot of paperwork. And also for those that may have applied for the property tax stabilization program, or property tax stabilization for senior citizens program. Some people take offense to the name. I didn't name it. Those applications are due by December 1st. Get them in. We have over 300 in, and we're in the process of processing each of those, tracking them, and people will receive notification as to whether or not they've been accepted in the program, or if they're not, they'll probably get a phone call from yours truly to say, hey, you needed to supply this and this in order to qualify, and can you get that to us by the 1st? So.
And people have to submit every year?
Yes, that's an annual, well, as the law is currently written, that's an annual program that I don't know what will be. The application itself is pretty straightforward to begin with. I would like to think that the renewal will be as simple, if not simpler, but they haven't come out with that yet, and they haven't even come out with a lot of the things that we'll need to submit. But we've got enough guidance to process them. But yes, absolutely. If anybody out there in the audience or TV world or internet world have applied for that program, it will be something you'll have to apply annually for by December 1st. But we'll know more about that, I assume, in the coming year. We'll remind folks.
Yeah.
Otherwise than that, I think the agenda can speak for itself.
Thank you, David.
Karen, I got a question for David.
Yep.
Yeah, David, about that grant that we got, the $3,000
Yep.
grant. Is that like instead of the FEMA grant that you were?
No, that was,
This was another project.
this was a different I'm still having a little bit of a go-around with FEMA, but I'm
Well,
still trying.
I see that you've been up working late, so I figured that.
FEMA just wants a little bit more paperwork, and then when you think you've got it all, they want a little bit more.
So that's not closed.
It's not closed.
Okay.
No, the $3,000 grant was through Maine Municipal Association. They have a safety or loss reduction program, I guess is the best way to put it, and
Okay.
cameras and water bugs and whatever else in your building helps you prevent loss.
Okay.
And speaking of that, we did get our carbon
Carbon monoxide.
detectors installed here.
Great.
Neat.
There's three?
Three,
Okay.
right?
Good.
Yes.
Two upstairs and
One in
one,
this part of the building.
one,
far end,
and then one in the basement.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
So lots going on.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
We'll move on to meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here in town office unless announced otherwise. Broadband committee is scheduled to meet Wednesday, November 16th, 5 p.m. Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, Wednesday, November 16th, 7 p.m. Lakes and Ponds Committee, Tuesday, November 22nd, 7 p.m. In observance of the Thanksgiving holiday, the town office will be closed on Thursday and Friday, November 24th and November 25th. And the select board meets next on November 28th at 6 p.m. And just for the record, we probably ought to note that this is the first meeting of a Lincolnville Select Board.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions, omissions, additions? All set? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, upcoming community events. Does anybody have any additional events, meetings to announce? Nothing? All set?
I can't think
You
of
look
anything.
like you may have something.
Yeah,
that
it's
you're
in
not
my
sure.
back pocket, actually, but I hate.
You got it in your back
I
pocket?
always hesitate to bring out my telephone in public. It's kind of, kind of rude, but yeah,
Probably.
there is something here. Yeah, because there's a Heart and Soul meeting coming up, I think,
Oh, right.
soon.
Okay.
And yeah, if you give me a second, I'll press the buttons and ignore them. Yeah, Tuesday the 15th at 7. Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow at the community building. It's going to be a Heart and Soul meeting at 7.
Okay, Heart and Soul meeting at the community building, Tuesday, 11:15 at 7 p.m.
That's what I've got, yeah. But then, yeah, no.
I think that's a team planning meeting
That could be, yeah.
versus, I mean, it's open to the public,
Oh,
but
it's not-
versus
yeah.
a come and listen to stories or tell stories meeting, I believe.
I think there's always storytelling.
Yeah, because we're still in the, backing up to administrator's report. Thank you for the prompt, Mike.
Yeah, sure.
We have received the official Yes, You're In grant announcement from the Heart and Soul people. We actually have the grant paperwork, but hasn't been reviewed, but it should be on the goal is to have it on your next agenda so that we can sign it, send it back, and really get going.
Great. Well, if there's nothing else on that agenda item for upcoming community events, we'll move on to item number 5, to approve the meeting minutes of October 24th, 2022. The Select Board.
I move that the board approve the October 24th, 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
My second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion? All those in favor? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, board, committee, and commission appointments and resignations.
So since your last meeting, we've received 2 resignations from our committees. The first is Cheryl Nevius from the Broadband Committee. She had a nice note. Giving the chair a pat on the back, and yeah, it still got done. I think she's spread a little thin. She's on the comp plan committee in Lakes and Ponds and broadband.
Well, with that, I move that the select board accept with regret the resignation of Cheryl Nevius from the broadband committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to thank her for serving on the committee at least 2 times. It might have been 3 times.
Yeah.
And she
Absolutely.
contributed.
Oh,
So
it's
much.
always tough to see somebody back away from this, especially when they've been involved so much and are so good at many things to help the town. So if there's no other comments, all those in favor? That motion passes.
And speaking of longtime involvement, Jay Foster submitted his resignation from the planning board. Jay was on the planning board, I believe, when I arrived in town a few years ago, or decades ago.
Yeah.
And he had been a regular member for a long time, and then several years ago switched to an alternate member.
It's the end of an era.
That it is.
Okay. Well, again, it's always tough to see people who have devoted so much time to the town to back away. Definitely, thank you very much, Jay. Do I have a motion?
I move that the select board accept with regret the resignation of Jay Foster from the planning board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just got one question. And that has to do with, on the current planning board, how many people does that leave us with? Are we,
6,
okay, so we're fine with quorums and things like that?
as long as if they continue to
Yeah,
show
okay,
up. But
yeah, okay.
certainly
Sure.
anybody out there in
Okay,
viewing world that wishes to serve on those, give us a call, get a community interest form off the town website, or come in and we'll help you.
What is a quorum on the planning board?
3.
3. Okay.
They have, I mean, it's good if they have a full board. They've got 5 regular members, or 5 voting members, and then 2 alternates.
If there's no more discussion, all those in favor of this resignation submission? Motion passes. Thank you. It goes out to Jay. Item number 7, tennis court resurfacing project update.
So several years ago, the town started setting aside monies for the resurfacing of the tennis courts and the painting of pickleball lines onto those courts. We based monies we were trying to get to on a proposal that was several years old. And we reached out to the tennis court people, or the court people, about proposals. Say we, but I mean David. And the prices came back higher than we have monies for, and it may end up being one of those chasing the tail if we wait and we go next year at the town meeting and say, hey, we need, I'm making this up, $2,000 more. And we get that money, and then we go back to get proposals, it may be 3,500 more. And so do you ever get to the end, I guess is the question. Right now, voters had appropriated $15,000 for the project. Obviously, you have copies of the proposals in your packet, which none of which are below $15,000. Options, I believe rec committee member and certainly a pickleball enthusiast are here that may want to speak on it, and then we can talk about options and where to go.
So this will go before the Recreation Commission on, did you say?
They had it, I sent it to them last week, I think, and they discussed it today, I hope. That's why Peter Rollins from the Recreation Commission is here.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation from the Rec Commission?
We do.
Okay, would you like to come to the podium and talk to us about that?
I'm Peter Rollins, live in Lincolnville. I'm representing the Lincolnville Recreation Commission. We've looked at 3 different proposals, one from the Maine Tennis Resurfacing Company and 2 from the Vermont Tennis Court Resurfacing Company. The main one is a lot more money. So we're kind of looking at the Vermont ones. The least expensive one is $16,291. The next one was $18,875. The difference between the two is a rust inhibitor prior to resurfacing. We don't really see the need for rust inhibiting on an asphalt tennis court. So we would like to recommend that we go with the proposal for $16,291. And this coming year, we have $5,750 in fiscal year 2023. We're going to be asking for an additional $2,491 to try to get this going in the coming year, rather than wait for inflation and see what happens. So we'd like to do this this coming year, but it's more money.
Okay, so I thought, I don't have the budget right in front of me, but I thought we were caught up in stage 3 of the money that had been planned for this outlay.
We are,
And we're up to, did you say?
15,000.
So we've got 15 in the bank, right? Okay, so we're looking at finding an extra $1,291.
Well, with the yes
And no,
and no.
okay,
The no is every set of pickleball lines you want to add is another $300 more.
gotcha, oh, yeah.
And I think there's ample room for 4. I see a nodding in the head from the,
So that would be 1,200 more.
an additional, yeah.
Gotcha.
And so there's, and I won't pass judgment on the necessity or the desire for the rust inhibitor, but if you look at the tennis courts there now, there's, I don't know what I'd call them, pock marks or whatever, but there's certainly rust spots leading up through the, now what, 12, 14-year-old? Nobody here knows, because
The school was,
Could you
yeah.
come to the?
Yeah, that went up when the school went up, so it's been a while. But regardless, we're still short.
Yeah.
And so there are options obviously available to you. You can budget more money in the coming year. You could have a special town meeting, take some out of unassigned fund balance. You could use contingency. You could ask the rec commission if there was something in this year's budget that really came in cheaper or wasn't going to get done. The part of the challenge is these folks are booking out in the next summer. I mean, they're obviously not going to do it in November. I mean, it has to be the right weather conditions. They're booking into next summer now. And if we wait for a budget appropriation next year, that's June, can't really sign a contract you don't have money for. They'll be booking the next year. And then the price goes up, and it's an evil cycle that we're finding ourselves in.
So sorry, do you have any more?
Yeah, well, I've got a question, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, so does the rec committee, do you guys have any money apart from this 15 in your budget that you'd like to, are you guys traveling with any money right now? That you'd like to say, well, we'll put up $2,491.
I wish we did. We don't
Yeah.
have a surplus at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, okay. Didn't hurt asking.
No,
Okay, so there are two widely different estimates here, but actually, well, there's 3, but the second one from Quality Fencing is a couple $1,000s more. But the only difference that I can see, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is this main tennis and track is gonna sand and paint the posts and rehang the nets. Okay, but this other company is not gonna do that. So any chance they could do that? the lower number so that the court is complete? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, has somebody asked them that? I mean, that's a very small difference, and can they do that? And
Yeah, I mean, the painting 4 posts is
yeah,
pretty minimal. When
but I mean,
when I say we, I mean,
Yeah.
school staff puts down the nets on an annual basis. So that's not the end of the earth. And we really didn't, I think Maine Tennis and Track might have been trying to be more thorough or more something. They offered more than what we asked for and what we inquired about.
Okay.
I mean, they could have said, we're gonna stripe the parking lot too, and we've been like, you know. But we certainly can get additional, you know, what would it cost to
I would just,
strip the,
I would just like to see it complete so that we don't have to go in there and finish something after they're done. I would like it to be, we can use it. You know what I mean? And we all know how things are going with schools doing it. So, you know,
well, let's put my man Friday on this.
okay.
And reach back out to Vermont Tennis and say, you know, how much would it cost to, so we've got an apples to apples, and if it's $10,000, I'm gonna get a new line of work to pay 4 posts, but, and then can come forth maybe with a little more thorough, now that we've got the rec committee's recommendation and kind of, I think I get the leanings over here, maybe come up with some recommendations as to how to pay for it.
Absolutely.
Because
You see what I'm saying? I just want it
Yeah.
to be done. If we're getting an entity in here
Yeah.
to do what they do professionally, then I think it should be complete.
yeah,
And, you know,
we're this close, and we need to close that gap.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, 8 or 10% inflation has really kind of whacked us in this last year, because I don't think the original proposal was even the 15, was it?
And you're saying they're a year out.
And yeah, and
Okay.
the number of entities that do this work is limited, or do it with quality. And yeah, we just need to find a way to close.
So
the
this
gap.
is, proposal is only good for 90 days.
Yeah.
So
One other
in a
difference,
year, are they gonna revisit that? I mean, you know,
Well, we're going to find a way in the next 90 days to approve it and put a check mark beside it and have them lined up for spring,
yeah.
would be my hope.
Okay.
So there's another difference. The Maine Tennis and Track says that they will put 2 coats of the acrylic resurfacer, and the Vermont firm says they'll put 1 coat of a resurfacer. And I don't know if that matters. Peter, what did the rec commission think about that difference?
We were honestly more focused on the price and getting it sealed and preventing any more damage.
Yeah.
Probably the single coat is fine. I mean, the courts really aren't all that bad.
Yeah, not to jump on and speak over Peter, the resurfacer is in essence a primer course. And then they put, I mean, if you look at, I haven't compared these in a while, but, so 2 coats of primer on something that's already painted, maybe. We'll research that one too, ask the
Okay.
question.
Okay. I agree. I would like to get a signature on this and get it moving. But if we can get those questions answered,
Do it in 90 days, great, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, we get it done at 90.
Yeah.
After 90, I'm sure the price is gonna go up.
Yeah, I think it's one of these where people come, and certainly we're not experts in tennis court resurfacing, any of us that I'm aware of. And they come give you a proposal about what they believe is necessary and best. And, you know, like if you go get your car fixed, somebody can sell you tires or they can sell you these tires.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little more, but
Just one more thing, we also discussed going forward, maintaining the courts after we do this work. And we were told that maintaining the drainage around the outside, keeping the grass from growing up, which allows all the water to pond in there, is going to be important.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that that's maintained somehow, to allow the water to run off back into the swamp.
Yeah, so that would be a good line item in the budget that's presented to us from you guys. Make sure that's something that's there.
Which was also kind of a question we had, is who is responsible for maintaining that? Is that the town or is that the school?
Yep.
So we came up
Good
with
answer.
good answer.
Yeah.
We actually, the town and the school select board and the school committee there's a policy that was created actually by a previous rec commission that went to both boards to approve. It's kind of a shared responsibility. It outlines who does what, and maintaining the drainage off that is not on that list. I can guarantee you that.
It's
right
something
now.
that needs to be added to it, and
Yeah.
it's great that this has come about. It's just things that we need to see that in budget season. Okay, and along with other stuff with ball fields and things of that nature. So that's another whole conversation, which we will get to. Perfect, thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I don't know if Greta has some
Do
stuff.
you have some stuff?
I don't mean to tell you how to run the meeting, but
I
Quickly,
appreciate you did.
before she speaks, how much is left in contingency?
almost all of it.
Okay.
Probably, of course, we're only we're 5 months into the year, so I'll give that to you in your little blurb for next time.
Okay.
So Greta Galesian, 347 Suze Mountain Road. Thank you for letting take this time to talk about this. I'm really pleased that these proposals are in. When I saw the one from Maine vendor, I was really shocked. When I look at the Vermont one, and I do have, even with me tonight, the Vermont proposal that was done for these courts in November of 2019. And so if you compare the proposal without the rust inhibitor for 2022 to the 2019 from the same vendor, the difference is that in 2019, it was about, I'm rounding to within $100, 13,500, and now it's 17,500. So, those bids show that the cost of the project proposals increased by 30%. Part of that is time, and part of that is pandemic and all the rest. But in that process, then of course the infrastructure continues to degrade.
Yeah.
So then you also want to avoid the cost of the delay of maintaining this infrastructure over time, because then it's going to cost more because of time going by, but also there's more degradation that's taken place. So I encourage you to get to the answers to your questions and to move forward as much as we can. Thank you for having the foresight to look at this project and have the patience and do it over time. And you know that we did 1, 2, 3 different incremental allocations to the fund. And, also the year of the pandemic, there was none, which we all understood because we didn't know what revenues would be. So I think I have been told that the wheels of municipal government sometimes move slowly, and that is, necessary. So I'm thanking you for teaching me to have some patience, and want to tell you that we've had over 160 different people play pickleball with us, and we have a listserv of over 80 people who get emails, and they all have the ability to post play, and it's happening there on several times a week. So thank you for encouraging all this. The best part to me is that it builds community and that it costs, it's essentially free to anybody who wants to use it. The pickleball community has donated the use of the nets and the loaner paddles and the balls and so forth. So it's a real collaborative thing that I'm happy that is existing in Lincolnville. So thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else on that? Okay, next item on the agenda, road surface management system progress report. Let's see, we have our road guy.
He's put this
And how do we want to start here?
I would summons him up to the podium.
David, if you'd like to come to the podium.
Thank you, Peter.
And I'll get this,
See if he,
get this going because I know he wants to. If I can remember the right password.
David, I really like your shirt.
Thank you.
Kind of Christmassy.
Yeah.
Why is that up here?
Well, I'll start. My name is David Roundy. I'm the Public Facilities Director here for the town of Lincolnville. This program, Road Surface Management Program, is something that we've acquired from the state. It's a tool for us to use. It's not the end-all silver bullet, but it's a tool that's going to allow us to identify, document, and present the current conditions of our roadways and our drainage. It identifies current road conditions, and how it does that is by a visual inspection. I gave you some paperwork, and there is a, let me see, I think it might be page, third page in, there's a window on top of the map. So I go out in the field, pull that one off to the side, and below it, there's two survey forms. Right below that document, there's two survey forms. I have one for a dirt road and one for a paved road. These are the survey papers that I take with me when I go out to look at a road. Now, we got a few unique things in town. North Cobbtown Road has a first section of older pavement, and then it has a section of newer pavement, and then it has a section of gravel. So what I did is, handwritten for now, through the course of going through all of our municipal roads, I've come up with 54 sections. That doesn't mean 54 roads. Some roads have 3 sections, some will have 2 sections. Some roads are half gravel, half pavement. So what I did is I broke those down and put them in a separate category, even though they're the same road, so that we can identify areas of roads to work on, as opposed to just talking about a whole road generically. So these forms right here, this one here is for, the top one is for paved roads, and the second form is for gravel roads. And what I do when I go out, it's asking me to look at the, let's say, for example, alligator cracking in the top right corner. It'll want to know the extent. If I'm seeing less than 10% of alligator cracking up through the roadway, 10 to 30% or over 30%, and then the severity of that condition. So say I would go over on medium and down medium and put an X there for myself to come back and plug it into the computer. When I take all of this information and put it in the computer, that where I showed you the window, the one with the window over the top of the map, that's where I load in my information. If you look on the bottom right of that window, it shows survey data. So I'll go down through each one of the items on there that were on my paperwork and plug in where I believe, and it's subjective, I'm a road guy, I mean, and it can be edited, changed, but I go through and mark every single item on what I think for severity is and for condition of the road. I come back and plug that in, and what the computer does, what this program does, is if you look up in the middle of the sheet, it says surface and drainage, and there's word preventive or poor. The computer, after I punch this stuff in, calculates the condition of the roadway based on my survey. Am I clear so far?
Yeah.
So that's where we get the conditions of it says preventive, and if you look on the left of this sheet with the window, it's giving you the colors.
Okay.
Okay, and what those colors do is they show up on the maps. I gave you a couple of maps, one saying surface and one with the drainage. Those color bars that are on the different roadways are established from me doing a road survey, a physical survey, putting it in the computer, and then the computer analyzes the information of all of those items that are the stresses, and then it calculates the importance of which roads need to be fixed first. And if you look on these on the map, like for surface, you'll see the different colors. And for example, let's say the heel road. If you look at the heel road and look at the associated road condition chart, it's saying that it's time for that road to be rehabilitated. That's based on my visual inspection of all the distresses and the road drainage. Now, the drainage component of this isn't as detailed as the surface of the roadways. It excludes cross culverts and driveway culverts, so those have to be visually inspected by myself, or if a call comes in that one of those have failed or has an issue. But it's very specific on the actual road surfaces, both gravel and paved roadways. It took quite a bit of time. It's not you're just really taking a real windshield view, slow down, get out, walk, take some pictures. There's a couple of really exciting things about this. There's actually more than that, but a couple that I want to touch on. Notes can be made on each one of these data windows for each roadway. So that allows me, like, for example, we just did a couple of seal cracking on Maslin and Tuckerbrook. I can put the year, the date, the time, what we did, what it cost under the notes, and also I can include photographs. So even in the springtime when we're doing work on roadways, mud season, if we put 14 loads of gravel on Calderwood, I can document that in there. We're starting to build a history to show ourselves, is it time to rebuild or to do something different? There's also, if you'll look on that, on the data window box, you'll see under key criteria, that's in the middle, it says importance and traffic. So David and I will look at important roads of Green Acre through Slab City to get to Atlantic Highway, or is it Youngtown? An importance level of 1 to 5 is plugged in, and then the same thing for traffic flows. And those two things help generate a report with the surface condition, the traffic flow, and the importance of it being a through fare to get from point A to point B, which ones are most important. And that helps dictate the information that's given back to us to determine what roads maybe we possibly should be looking at to put on next year's budget or the year after budget. I think it's really like, it's a tool. It's not perfect. But I think it's a tool that's gonna help us be able to look into the future and maybe have some better ideas based on some good information.
So in the past, this was done,
It was done the same way as I would started a year ago. I come in and saw that, well, that road there doesn't look like it's too good. Maybe we ought to be doing something there next year, or this is just more, it's a more presentable package of information for you to digest, to consider what we're trying to explain to you. I think there's a couple of things that probably outlive me, but if this is continued, if I take the effort and put in what we do for roads, for work, repairs, new pavement sections, it's gonna build a history of information that's just gonna become more and more valuable as it's collected.
Yeah.
To look at things and see what it costs not to, say we chose not to do a road that maybe we thought, we were on the fence on, and we see that we had $10,000 of extra expenses on it the next year because we didn't resurface it or rebuild it. Those costs you're not gonna get them back, and it's gonna help us to do focused, pinpoint work on roads where we're gonna get the most for our money, and not be wasteful and repairing a blowout year after year after year. Let's fix the problem and stop that. I mean, we don't have there's not enough money in the world to do everything you'd like to do, but it's a way to do smarter with what you have. I'm excited about it. I've put a lot of work into it so far to get started. There's a lot of reports that can be generated that will be helpful, and I'm just starting to get into that side of it right now. But all this information is loaded. Every road, every section is loaded, and these maps are what have come out with somewhat, to be honest with you, what David and I have through our windshield drives and the miles that I've put on in the last year since I've started are, you have to be very subjective and not think, well, what's it going to cost to repair this road? You have to just drive down the road and see what you see and put it down without any objectives of wanting this one or that one, or not thinking. And it actually surprised me. I was actually quite excited to get it done, to see what it says, because some of the points that are on here that look like they may be the issues is what I believe to be true out there. Now, the second map that you have is drainage. And like I said, it doesn't go into great detail. What I'm looking for drainage, and what this program asked me to look for, is high shoulders, ditches. There's culverts aren't involved. I gotta visually look at cross culverts or people's driveway culverts. So you either see a problem as it's starting to develop, or a lot of times with culverts, you find the problem when there's a problem. You know what I mean? But what this is showing to me, and I again agree with this, being very subjective and just trying to plug in information, is the reds are poor drainage. And say, for example, up on Van Sickle, it's not out, but you see it up on the top left-hand corner, top of the map. That road, the shoulders are so high that the road is actually like the river. There's no way for water to get off the edge of the roads. So the reds, and what I found out in my travels, is we have a lot of high shoulders. Our ditches are in pretty good shape, but the water can't get to the ditches. And that's from years and years of just buildup of plowing and grass growing and sand salt. I mean, we put out thousands of yards a year, and every place gets a half an inch or something on the shoulder that it builds up. So this map is showing that we need to do some efforts on some shoulder work and get the water into our ditches. But I think this is a very good tool. One of the things that David and I have talked about, I'll end it with this. When I go out with my chart, with my survey form, and it's asking me to look at something, if I feel it's in the 10 to 30% range of having a problem, it could be at 11% or it could be at 29. So if you took two roads and you said, well, geez, I think this one might be as bad as that one, or this one might be, this program is asking me, is the extent of the problem 10% to 30%. So something could be at 11%. In my mind, it could just be a little bit more than 10%. And then the next one could be, I don't think it's quite 30. So there's some, it's subjective. You have to take in, just clear your mind and see what you see and not try to compare it to the road you're on or the one you're going to. It's what you see there. I think this is the next step of bringing us to a place different than, I think, well, that might be it. Well, maybe we ought to go over there. This is sort of giving us something to base that we need to spend money on this based on something that's more than written down on a napkin type of, I don't mean that in a bad way or anything. We're just going to the next level, and this has been a lot of learning process for me, and there's more to go, but I enjoy it, and I think it's gonna be something very good for the town.
How much is the tool?
How much is the tool?
Yeah.
$200.
One-time fee or?
One-time fee, one computer. It can't be spread, it can't be.
Licensed to one machine.
One machine.
Yeah.
And it took me 3 or 4 attempts to learn.
It's not real intuitive.
Yeah.
No, it was tough for me, and I'm not the best at computers, but I've learned a lot, and I've learned how to use it, and I'm pleased. And I started pulling some reports on what's important because of traffic flow, or what's important because of how important this road is compared to another. There's a few tools that are just going to help us make some better decisions on how to spend the town's money.
That's great.
I've got great questions. Yeah, this is really exciting. Neat software. Sure, it's going to help the town a heck of a lot going down the road. But a couple questions. Do you know if this can be combined with other types of maps? Can it be layered with other GIS maps, like Habitat for Humanity maps, or maps of the area that will be used when people talk about community drainage for climate change, community resilience, storm damage? It's coming from the DOT, so I'm guessing that, that's what the DOT does, right? They've got to do a lot of GIS stuff, of mapping, and especially with traffic flows, how much traffic is going down the road. And they've got those numbers, I'm sure, right? So I would think this could be one of the layers to go with one of their maps. It's all the same, I was just wondering if that's the case, if you guys knew if that was the case, if it would work that way.
I don't know. I wouldn't be completely surprised if they said not easily.
Not easily, okay. Well, it could be, I just can see it as more value. It could be a very useful tool for additional information that you guys are getting, especially culverts.
This really builds upon what we've all talked about, like at budget time, we've got a 10-year road paving plan. Sure. This takes it to the next level. Right. That effort that was done prior to my arrival was, a good for the time effort, and we've utilized it and done very well. This takes it to another level of, I don't want to call it scientific, but a little more refined effort. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look at this in terms of the road surfaces, I think if you compare the poorer conditioned roads to that resurfacing plan, you'd find out that the yellows or the oranges are what's coming either next year or the year after, and some of the yellows are 3 or 4 years out, and some of the greens are ones we've just done. So I think it reinforces what's been done in the past.
Yes.
but it also lends a little more, the next level of scientific approach to it, if that's the best way to put it. So that we want to do the right thing at the right place at the right time.
Sure.
That's always the key. You don't want to be years late, because then the costs go up, and you don't want to be years early, because then you're spending money that you didn't need to spend yet. So it's a planning, as David said, it's a planning tool available to us, that just, I think by the time we're done and get it all done, it'll generate a lot more information that's useful. But David spent a lot of time out familiarizing himself with the roads, but while he's doing that, he's also able to look at the condition they're in and document that, so that, you have data besides memories and, things that are good. I don't have any trouble going to what we've utilized in the past and say it's still good, but it's nice to go through this effort to re-verify that that's, where the money's ought to be spent.
Yeah.
And the drainage thing, I think that's one of the things that everybody knew, and we kind of, I won't say ignored, but wasn't high on the priority list. And then this spring, it was, we had water running down the roads in a lot of spots, and we were able to send the grader out and knock off some shoulders. Some of you may have seen that on some roads. Water is the number one damager of roads. Water creates soil, creates mud. Mud doesn't support much of a load. So you've got to control the water. You could have the best built road, but if you can't get the water away from it, it's not going to last. It's combination. Drainage is critical. So I think it just the color coded for, anybody that could grab one of these maps quickly, green's good, go. And as the colors progress towards red, you say, oh.
And that's generated by the computer program. That's not me. I put in information blindly, and then it comes up and puts that map out, and I'm in a pretty close agreement with that map. Now, being out and about, like David said, I don't know how many days I was out in the field. A few things came to the top of mind. We've definitely got to maintain what we have. It's not as clean as going out and saying, well, let's go pave everything. That we've got to save and take care of what we have first. And I saw that in my travels and in my thought process of seeing things that were 4 or 5 years off that have been paved that need some seal cracking or some shoulder work or whatever. We need to save those before we keep adding more, or we're going to get into a bigger situation down the road. And then this chart right here that's in your little packet that I gave you, this is generic. One of the things I've found in some road crossing culverts that we've done in the last year is some of our conditions underneath the pavement are not what they need to be to have a curve like this last as long as it says a road should last. So this is generic. If you've got a good road base and everything's perfect with drainage and everything else, you may run out your curve to the 20-year and not be all the way down to very poor. You may be fair, but it depends on what's underneath the roadway. So it's one of the things when we go to do other roads that aren't paved that we probably definitely want to look at what's underneath. This is just, I'm just excited. Like I said, I did a couple of notes on some roads we put seal crack material in. I've taken photographs of some of the damage on every one of these roads. I can add photographs into this. So 3 years from now, one of you could say, well, what exactly has our effort been on Greenacre? And we can look and see we paved this section this many feet, this wide. It costs this much. We've done shoulder work. We had 3 days with a company in here we're gonna build a history, we're gonna build a book for every single road that's gonna, your history shows your future. Cost is gonna change, but it's gonna show you the efforts that are involved more than having me say, geez, I think we can do that in a week. Well, we did 1,000 feet last year in 2 days, so if we wanna do 4,000 feet, it's gonna be 8 days, but we'll have something to base it on. So I think as this grows, it's gonna be a book for each road that I think is very helpful to present to the citizens if anyone is interested or wants to get involved to see. And at the very least, for the board and committees appropriating funds. It's a better way to do it, a better way to present the information.
Oh, definitely. This is great. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying doing it, because it sounds like a lot of work.
One of
Good work.
it's part of my job. It's one of the things. I mean, there's a lot of things. We do a lot of things, but roads are one of the most expensive things for a town to maintain. It's a big budget, and if we can do it in the most responsible way for the citizens, that's how we should be doing it.
This is great. Thank you for spending the time.
No, you're welcome.
To learn it.
I've made it clear that the computer is a learning process for me, and I'm happy at 61 almost to be learning. So it keeps me engaged, and it's good. So yes, thank you. Any more questions or?
No.
Thank you very much, David.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks, David.
Well, if there isn't anything else, we'll go to agenda item number 9, broadband update.
Just a short one. We met, let's see, 2 weeks ago, and we met with Susan Corbett and just refined the digital equity. Yeah. That project, and we have a draft version that it looks good. So it's just a matter of adding more to the meat of that. One thing that we're playing with is the idea of proposing hiring a part-time person that would help. I think it's called a digital navigator, and someone that can help the community, perhaps at the library. People could come in and be trained on how to use computers, how to use certain software, how to sign up for programs that can help them save money on their internet. So that's something that we're going to explore, and then if the committee thinks that that's a good potential, then present that to the board.
I got a question about that. Yeah. Let's say there's a navigator or navigation station, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Would they be able to tap into services, online services that the town and the state provide? I mean, would that be one of their directions or directives? If somebody comes and asks you, say, hey, how do I register my car, pay my taxes, do whatever? Mm-hmm. Instead of them coming to the town office and bothering David or Cheryl or whomever and asking that question, and when you could do it online, the digital equity navigator would be able to point them to town services as well.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could, if
it's not just training people how to use a PC, right?
We could. I mean, we have a draft job description that can say whatever we like.
Yeah.
I love that idea, though, of them understanding how people can sign up for all the town services that they need, and it goes online. And I think that would be a great addition to it.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of if we think the town's willing to pay for it.
So is that one of the functions of a digital equity navigator?
Digital navigator.
Or digital navigator? Is that one of the functions?
Yeah, basically helping people with any sort of how to use the internet, and that's a very broad job description, but something as important as how to get online, how to use town services, that really falls in line with
I just this afternoon I was trying to navigate a online application form through the state of Maine. And it was like, well, yeah, I made it through maybe, but it would have been nice to have someone who was more familiar with getting through online forms, government online forms.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, certainly.
Because a lot of people out there who rely on online forms, the government, and that's the way we're going now, right?
Right. Yeah. Another option is just exploring the possibility of having like a lending library at the library for devices. So if people know they'll have healthcare Zoom calls and they need a laptop for the next few weeks. Yeah, that's something that we could explore potentially. So really trying to look at all the different angles of closing that digital gap. And so it's been so great to work with Susan Corbin and someone who is this is clearly what she does, and she's very good at it, and having a committee that is all in on that goal.
Anything else, Mike?
No, it just sounds like, no, but the whole digital equity approach sounds like it could very much help a lot of people in town.
Well, if there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, recap and takeaways from the emergency management exercise. David, do you want to start with that?
Just for anybody that doesn't know, Waldo County Emergency Management Agency conducted a drill of emergency operations centers on October 25th, I believe. We had a good turnout at our emergency operations center, which is at the fire station. We've got their minutes in the packet, just kind of said some of the things they went over in terms of a pager test. And although it says that I don't have a pager, and I might have heard it, except I didn't realize it was starting at 5 o'clock and I got over there at 5:15. But regardless, we were able to communicate both via radio. We did not use the DH4 system because Dave Kinney's not as up to speed on it as he could be or should be, maybe. We were communicating with them via email and then phone and then radio and then nothing. I think my biggest takeaway was we really need to up our game and find a local emergency management director that can put forth the time and the effort needed to keep up with it, because there's a gap there right now.
I for one, and I agree wholeheartedly on the participation of an emergency management director for our town. I think we need to move that along and get someone in that role. The other thing that was apparent to me was the low level of technology at our emergency center, which is at the fire department. And I think that needs to be addressed sooner than later. And I don't think that a questionnaire with our department heads down there is going to get the information. I think the answer is going to be, well, we're all set. I don't think so. I think we need another level.
Yeah, we really, from my perspective, if we can find the right emergency management director, one of their first tasks is to go to the EMA meetings and find out what it is we really need. We have a tablet that was provided to us by Waldo County EMA. Every town has one, and that can communicate in a number of ways with them, wirelessly or through the connection through the internet, or one of the first tasks for the EMA director is really, what do we need in order to, what do you need? What support do we need to provide to you to make it easy and right to do your job? Just like with David that was just here, a $200 software package should pay dividends down the road.
Yeah.
And the same thing, but that person really needs to identify what that is versus us spending time trying to figure it out and then have that person come in and be like, well, instead of this thing, you should have bought that thing. And I think we kind of need to find the person and task them with that task.
Well, I would say a glaring problem is that we don't have good internet at.
Technology,
Yeah.
that's what I was alluding to.
But to me, that's square one. I mean, I think that's an obvious thing that we should put in the draft budget to at least have LCI run the fiber down. I don't know about the computer, but people can always bring a laptop because my phone wasn't working. I don't think anyone's phone was working. So that is basically the worst place in Lincolnville to be running the emergency operations center as of right now because of no internet and their cell phones.
And it's ironic because it's 50 yards off a fiber line.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I thought it was very productive. I'm so glad that we could
I
all
learned
attend.
a lot there, just
Yeah.
listening to what was going on.
Me too.
And I was really happy to see as many of us there as we had.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, one of the things that struck me was, I thought the whole thing went really well. However, it did strike me that it was kind of how fragile it was. And a lot of it was because of physics, line of sight, radio communications. That's what a lot of it relies on, communicating back with the county and then everyone else. And, I was at Joe? Who's the guy who was there at the fire department helping us?
He was incredible.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm sorry, what was his name?
Yeah, John.
John, I'm sorry, John. Sorry, John. He was pointing out that what our town really needs, that fire department station really needs, is a repeater up on high ground. Just a simple whip antenna, higher up than, up on the, and if we can, well, that's what the EMA person hopefully will identify if necessary.
connectivity.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We should probably check if the school's generator works well. That was another.
Yeah, we didn't know.
So it's my understanding now, I know we have had mud on our face before because we relied on them, I'll just say. It's supposed to be on an auto test, I believe weekly. I don't know, we don't get that information, and an EMA representative from our town would have that information because it's part of their responsibility.
Okay.
So that's another reason why we need to get someone in this position. I have reached out to 2 different people who I feel would be a good representative for that spot. I've yet to hear back. And if there are any names that we can get on the table, I think so. And I think we should advertise this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that was in our packet, but it's a really good idea, and I really think we should push forward with that.
Well, that brings up a question that I was going to ask as far as advertising goes. I know there's some motions that are suggested. Before we get to those, I was wondering, what is the preferred stipend amount for this position? Is there a stipend amount?
There is. I believe, I don't have that in front of me, I could go get it, but I believe we budget $1,500 a year for a stipend for that position.
Okay.
And it varies widely throughout the county.
That's what I was going to
Some lower, some higher, and some are combined in with other positions, so you don't really know what they're, what that pay is. But I certainly could inquire of Dale and say, do you know what the average is in the county or
Well,
what the
no.
range is?
Yeah, no, I think,
We also
think
have-
we should get an ad out there, but I think when it comes budget time, we should think about how to make that position competitive.
And we know from our previous representative that it's not a quick job, it's not easy, and there's a lot of time involved, so,
Yeah, okay.
We also need to talk and/or agree to change the terminology in the job description for emergency management director so that that can be consistent with what was just voted on for all of our documentation here at the town office. So if there's nothing else on what we were talking about, if I could have a motion on that first.
I'll make it. I move that within the emergency management director job description, that the references to the Board of Selectmen be changed to Select Board.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor? Motion passes. So back to advertising the position, I feel that, we should move that forward.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I move that the town administrator seek applicants for the emergency management director position with a rolling deadline, and that upon finding a suitable candidate, that candidate be brought forward to the select board for consideration of appointment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, no discussion. David, we good?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion passes.
I hope that happens sooner than later, because winter's coming, and
Yeah.
when an emergency hits and it's freezing temperatures, it's that much more dire.
So, yeah, Karen, I just want to thank you for asking around, talking to a
Absolutely,
couple
and-
people, because I know that was your homework assignment from our meeting. But we only assigned you one person.
Yeah.
You went above and
No,
beyond, so well done.
I've reached out to two,
Yeah.
and just as soon as I talk to either one of them or both of them, we've got at least one of them interested, then I'll put him in touch with David, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome.
Good.
Is there anything else?
Not on that agenda.
No,
Okay, next agenda item, the warrants. Need to approve the warrants?
Oh, wait, I
You
think.
skipped one.
you skipped
I
one.
did.
Skip one, yeah, and I've got an update that you might want to hear.
I skipped one. Oh, select person updates.
Yeah,
Has anybody?
but I'll let Josh go first, because he has some new.
Okay.
You got any updates?
Sorry about that.
Yes, so my update, so the Waldo County Budget Committee passed the county budget. I am blanking on the exact increase. There was an increase. Might have been 5 point something percent. And it all seemed very reasonable. We had good conversations as a committee and with the heads of all of the departments. So we should be getting a copy of that budget in the coming weeks.
Good.
Excellent.
Mike?
Oh, I just wanted to update you all on the, how it's going with the Maine Municipal Association Legislative Policy Committee. Because we had a meeting this Thursday, on the 10th, and after the election, and combination Zoom and in-person meeting, and as a result of the surveys that I passed around and a discussion at a prior meeting a month before, MMA people kind of ranked the issues that and came up with kind of a big four, or big five, let's call it, that they will, if they have enough time and resources, they'll be devoting their attention to. They haven't finalized what the details might be, those packages. Anyway, those packages would be, the major one is property tax stabilization, LD 290 thing, its impact on municipality. The second one would be the general assistance program, the GA program, funding for it. And of course, you have to understand a lot of this stuff is, if not being driven by large cities, but I mean, it's a mixture of cities and municipalities of different sizes, different needs.
Yeah.
So South Portland's GA program is very different than our GA program and the problems that they have. The third one might be broadband and its expansion policy around that.
The fourth one has to do with revenue sharing for cannabis sales, adult recreation cannabis sales. And, towns that have allowed it, where the citizens have allowed it to take place and be sold. There's a certain revenue sharing formula that money coming back from the state, money. And there might be a lobbying effort to kind of see if towns can get a bit bigger slice of that pie. And the other last one has to do with like the training requirements for police officers. Right now, you have to, police officers have to be, as far as I can understand, be trained at a residential, at a facility up in Augusta, Bangor.
That's the law.
Where is it?
That's the law.
Okay, someplace. Okay, and that costs towns money. And perhaps the thinking is that that training could happen closer at home, would cost towns as much money.
This is after a police officer has been hired by a town and they
I
need to
think
get
so, and the
additional
town
training.
has to pay that, and they have to pay for that training. And the training is just more expensive because it's at a faraway place,
Okay.
rather than the community college next door.
Okay.
That's just kind of an example. That's roughly speaking. So anyway, but yeah, so on December 10th, we'll go back and meet, and they will come up, MMA will like draft some legislation, and then we'll all kind of decide on the details in all those areas. But the other two takeaways I took from that meeting that we might want to get involved with is two things. One is for them to make any like lobbying effort on, let's say, 290 or GA assistance or whatever. I mean, the argument that they're going to make is that it costs towns money. It's costing towns money, so they're going to want the data behind that. And so they didn't formally ask, but I know that they would like towns to start compiling the data on the number of how much time and money is spent in processing, let's say, the property tax stabilization things. I'm not going to ask David.
They haven't asked for that, but this is something they're considering.
No, yeah, it was like an informal ask at a meeting type of thing. Yeah, so I don't know what it really qualifies for in terms of, what kind of request it was.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, so the board might want to consider having the town compile those numbers, or talking with the MMA and see if they really do need those numbers, or if Mike was just dreaming at the moment, And the other thing is that they mentioned, that came up, was a lot of these are, these points of conflict are conflicts around the notion of, local control, home rule. Legislators in Augusta have a different notion of what the boundaries of home rule are than perhaps municipalities do. And they suggested that it might be a good idea, and I think it would be, for the towns, like our town, to invite our state house rep and our state senator in, have a little discussion on, so what you two guys think home rule is and what the boundaries are. This is what we think.
Yeah.
And so who knows what would come out of that conversation, of course. Might be a good idea because I think they have different needs, different priorities, agenda items in Augusta than they do in Lincolnville, Maine.
Of course.
Sometimes. Yeah. That's my update. Yeah, it would be more to the point if we would simply allow cannabis shops on the Heel Road, but until that time.
Well, the update that I have was for Midco Solid Waste. The meeting was canceled. The November meeting was canceled, which basically that's the meeting that we go over our budget and get it to the towns, supposedly get it to the towns before January 1st. I had no no heads up that this was gonna happen. It was canceled. There was no questions as to why, so yours truly asked why. And I was met with it was an uncomfortable conversation to begin with, but it ended up turning out okay. I was told that the solid waste manager did not have anything to present to the board. He had no information for the board or whatever, and I countered that by saying, but we do have something to do, we have the budget, and wasn't entertained. But I was told, we've never met the deadline, and nobody else questioned it but me, and, that was before you had reached out to me. And so we're gonna meet January 27th, 28th, something like that, for our meeting, and that's when we will.
For our first look at the budget.
For our first look at the budget.
How much time does that give you guys? You've seen the budget.
We have another thing going on, and I believe it more now than ever that we're only meeting quarterly, and we need to meet more often, and I believe Josh will agree with that, and we need to have eyes on things because of a number of reasons, Quarterly works, but for reasons like this, we need to get back at it. Although things are going very well over there, my feedback at the upcoming meeting is going to be, hey, I feel that we need to meet more often. And I'm also going to say my piece about the budget not being submitted again on time. So that's all I have. If anybody has anything else. So with that being said, the selectmen updates are done. Treasurer and payroll warrants, we need to approve and sign those.
I move that the board approve and sign the treasurer's and payroll warrants.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion passes. Is there anything else that we've missed that we need to go back to that someone has remembered? Or are we good?
I guess just one minor thing. It's a question for David. David, any progress on server email things for select board members from the IT person?
I haven't looked at it in the last 2
Okay.
weeks.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, it's kind of like the pandemic. You know, those 2 weeks are black holes, right?
Those, yeah,
Yeah.
election black hole.
Yep. Okay.
But it's been 2 years prior, so
I'm just curious.
I'll prompt my helper.
Oh, and then while we're asking David questions, so the last we heard about the Harbor Cam was LCI running fiber to the pier? Was that?
We talked to LCI about running fiber to the pier, but never gave them a go do it.
Okay. Would you like us to give you direction on?
I'd like, when we have our December 5th conversation, that's on the list of things to shuffle and massage.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a final motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yep.
Good job, gentlemen.
Good job, Colonel.
Thank you.